All right, so somewhere in Matthew, I think it's 5:3, 5:5, it says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, because their kingdom is in heaven." So today I kind of wanted to give, I guess, a little bit of a testimony on how God allowed me to become poor in spirit so that I might accept him into my life and allow him to enter my spirit and give me all the things I was searching for in the world. So to start off, a lot of people, they'll hear something like, God wants me to be poor in spirit. Like, how is this God? How does he want what's best for me if he wants me to be poor in spirit? And the thing about that is that he wants you to be poor in spirit to the world. Because if you're poor in spirit in this world, it will allow you to look to him and ask him to enter you. And he, like I said, he'll give you all the things that you were searching for in the world. So how do we do this? How do we go into the world and we look for things to fill our spirit? Well, I think a lot of you probably already can think of a few things, and I've done all of these myself. So women, right? Or if you're a girl, guys, right? Looking for lust, somebody else, another person to fill that void that you have. Drugs, alcohol, all things like this. Gambling can be one of them. These vices that are very worldly that we try to use in order to fill our God-shaped void that we have. And the world sets this up very, very strategically, right? So where it makes it very normal for us to want to do these things, right? If you're at a party, for instance, a lot of drinking going on in the club, you're kind of weird if you're just in the corner and not drinking. Like if you have a thing of water, you're gonna have a bunch of people coming up to you like, hey man, you're like, why aren't you drinking? So the evil world, this is the kingdom of darkness, but that's a whole other story. So we live our whole lives trying to fill ourselves up with these things that temporarily do work, and even money, right? These material things. They will make us feel fulfilled for a certain amount of time, but that's how the devil is, right? He'll kind of play like a cat and mouse game. He'll put like a little piece of cheese on a string and kind of, you get closer and closer and closer, and the closer you get, the further you go, and the more you realize that, hey, this isn't really fulfilling me the way I thought that it would. I mean, you can look at playing a video game, right? Like when has a video game, when have you ever completed a video game and you got to the end and you were like, my life is fulfilled now. All these things that I wanted in the video game, yes, they're finally complete. Obviously it's a video game, right? But it's kind of a microcosm of how actual life also works. Like in the video game, you're like, okay, I'm gonna hit level 10, I'm gonna be pumped. You hit level 10, it feels good for like a couple seconds, a couple minutes, right? And then before long, you're like, okay, what's the next thing? This is the void that God fills, right? You never feel that emptiness afterwards. If you make $1 million, you see all the time rich people, they make all this money. Yeah, it's great for a while, and of course money is a tool, right? But they kind of find themselves being like, but this void still isn't filled. No matter what I do in this world, this void's not filled. And what God does when he enters you, he gives you this light. He fills you up with this void. He fills this void that you've had for so long, that you've been trying to fill with all these worldly things. And you finally realize, like, dude, this feeling I have of peace and serenity, and like, because you have him in you, you believe his teachings, you believe the things that he says, right? Because you can't just look to God and say, all right, God, come to me now, come and fill me with your spirit and show me that you can do this, right? Because you don't believe. You have to come to him with a pure heart, a kind heart. You have to have humility, and you have to ask him and mean it in your heart, because he knows your heart. You have to ask him, God, like, I've been trying to fill this void that I have with all these things in the world, and it's not working. No matter what I do, I can't find happiness. No matter who I go to, I have all these relationships that are leaving me heartbroken. What do I do? Right? And the way that God adds is he subtracts. I think it was Perry Stone say that, and it's incredibly true, and I lived through this. So I'm kind of going all over the place, but yes, you have to be pure in heart when you ask him these things. And then you allow him in, and he can't come into your heart if you already have the devil in there. If you're living sinfully and you don't want to listen to him, if you're going like this by listening to the devil, by giving into sin, he's still with you. He's still watching you, right? He still loves you, but he's not gonna enter your life. When he finally enters your life, you feel his presence. The first time I really, outside of a dream I had when I was younger, I'll get into that in a second, but in real life, the first time that I ever felt like this peaceful feeling around me was one of the first times I ever read the Bible, okay? And if you're reading the Bible angrily, like, I don't believe this, you're probably not going to feel him. But if you're reading the Bible and you're actually coming with humility, opening your heart, saying, okay, let me see what this is about, and just being honest with the pure heart, the more times you do that, he will show himself to you, okay? So let's get into actually like my actual testimony and my experience. So I grew up, yes, in a Christian household. However, I was not a Christian until very recently. So what I mean by that is, yeah, my mom used to read me scriptures going to bed, and she did plant the seed, most definitely. But and I had little times here and there, little segments of my life where I would go to church, but my heart wasn't in it. I didn't want to hear from God. I didn't want to see him. I was kind of being forced upon this, right? And not in a, of course, like a bad way from my parents. They wanted what was best for me, and they planted the seed. They never once were like, hey, you have to believe this. You have to believe Christianity. They just surrounded me with God, okay? And I chose to go my own path, okay? God put he puts like two roads in front of you, right? You either follow him and you listen to him, or he says, okay, this is exactly what he did for me. He'll say, okay, go your own way. Your bloodline, your family knows me. Go your own way and do your thing, okay? And you'll come back to me when it's time to. So I did just that. I went my own way into the world. And of course, like, there's no shame in that, right? Because this whole world, like, your friends are around you doing very similar things. At least this was my experience. And you're being a Christian and being godly, especially when you're younger. I've seen this. It's like made fun of, right? So even if you're young, you have all these people around you. All your friends are like cursing and doing all this heinous stuff and all these sinning acts. It's not a judgment on them, but it is hard, especially when you're younger. You don't have this view of the world yet to really open yourself up to God. So I went my own way, and I lived a very sinful life. So I got into, I smoked weed almost every day when I was in high school. I was still being productive with it, but I got into things like drugs and alcohol, okay? And I ran to women. I treated women very wrongly when I was younger. I never like did anything super heinous. Like, I never hit a woman, but I definitely took for granted the daughters, like God's daughters, that he was sending to me. I actually went into the military when I was 18. I went into the United States Marines. And so I'm chasing everything that I think is going to bring me this fulfillment, right? I'm, okay, get out of high school, get a good job, a well-paying job. I'm going to go in, I'm going to find a girl, which I did, start living with her, which I did. And I'm making pretty decent money. I mean, when you're in the military, people that have served, they know what I'm talking about. You get so much cut expenses that like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, it goes way longer than when you're living in the civilian world, right? So I was living with this girl. I was in the Marines, you know. I got a lot of lessons out of it, right? Like, you can still learn lessons in the world that you can apply into your life. But because I didn't have God in my life, I was at a point where I had these things that I was told my whole life that these things are going to make you happy, right? A good amount of money, and enough to live comfortably, get a house, you know, get a girl, and, you know, I even had some animals and stuff, have a household. And I'm still like, man, I'm going to the gym, and I'm like, why? Something's just not still quite right. And it was, ironically, it was in this time. So I was in the Marines from 2017 to the end of 2021. Ironically, at the end of 2020, when I still had a year left in the Marines, I started taking kratom. And if you don't know what kratom is, I have a video of my channel. I was addicted to it for the past 3 years. And just about a month ago, I actually got off of it completely. And it's not heroin, okay, it's nothing crazy, but it is something that I formed a dependency to, and it was not the easiest thing to come off of. And what this kratom was doing for me, it was filling this void. It was me attempting to fill a void that can only be filled by God, although I didn't know it at the time. And it worked. It did. As I said before, this is how the devil works. It makes you think this is the right thing, right? So I was taking this kratom, and every time I took it, I was like, this is good. I have less anxiety. I'm going out, and I'm talking to people more fluently, and everything's great. Again, I took it for anxiety. A lot of people drink because of anxiety. They do these things because of anxiety. God can solve these things. If you allow God into your life and you fully put your trust in him, he can come in and give you these cures to these issues that you have, that you're searching for, and drugs and substances and all this worldly stuff, right? So I got addicted to it, and I started vaping and all this stuff, all trying to fill this void. I'm hitting the gym extremely hard, and I love working out, okay? Of course, at a base level, I love going to the gym. In my heart, I always have, I always will. But there is a certain point where it's almost like I made myself my own God. Society teaches like self-love and all this. You should love yourself, yes. But there's a certain point where it becomes egotistical and prideful when you're not putting God first, where things can get a bit carried away. Started taking kratom, addicted to nicotine, addicted to vaping. And then what happened was, when I got out of the military, I ended up living out of the military with a girl that I was with. She ended up cheating on me. And so she ended up cheating on me, and I had to go live with my friend. and I ended up going and living somewhere else as well with a family member for a short time, and that's what led me to where I currently am now. Well, I don't need to get into too much detail in that, except for the fact that the last place that I was, like a year ago from now until maybe a month ago, it was a dark place, man. There was demons in there, 100%. And keep in mind, like, these were things that I was thinking to myself before I fully gave God to me. I fully gave myself to God about a month ago, okay, right at the end of my time at this place. It was evil. Even, my mom has been a Christian for many, many years now, and she's not perfect, nor am I. We don't know everything. We're not perfect. We're not on top of a pedestal, but she knows a lot more than I do. And I remember saying to her one time, like, isn't this just something like kind of eerie about this apartment that I was living in, or something? Like, I don't know, there's something just kind of creepy about it. And she says, yeah, like, she's been thinking that for years, that she's been coming in and out. Like, yeah, there's definitely something strange going on in there. I had sleep paralysis in this place. I would, like, wake up. I would know that I was awake, but I couldn't move my body. I'd hear, like, the doorknob jiggling. I'd hear, like, footsteps on the carpet sometimes. Sometimes I'd be in there in my room just hanging out, and I'd hear, like, a chair moving along, like, scraping against the cement outside, and I was the only one home. A lot of weird stuff going on there. And obviously I rebuked these things in the name of Jesus, but it was at the time, and I didn't have God fully in my life. You kind of have this, it's fearful, right? But if you have God fully in your life, just like, get out of here. Like, what are you doing? Like, the power of God is much stronger than anything you could possibly bestow upon me. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. So things weren't going too well in my life, man. I was getting involved with women and friends that they were trying to get me to do drugs and stuff like this, and they weren't, like, I was choosing to do these things, right? But I was around bad people. People, when they come into your life, they either make you better or they make you worse. There's no in between, really. So these people that I was around, it's fun in the moment is the thing. And again, this all goes back to how the devil is so clever at deceiving you. When you're living in these ways, it feels good. It feels great in the moment, of course. But what the devil doesn't tell you, what he doesn't make clear, is that these things, they will ultimately always lead to emptiness. So, like any heroin addict, you never see a heroin addict taking heroin for his entire life, like 60 years, 70 years straight, and at the end of it being like, well, this was the thing that really just saved my life. This was great. This allowed me to... No, it's never like that, man. So it always starts off great, it's presented in a great manner, and it always ends in the same way. So these things, they were coming in, and like, I was around women that were... They just were not... They weren't good, man. And I don't want to say... A couple of them I did see some evil, some darkness in, and I have some videos of that on my channel as well, and some shorts of, God has blessed me with discernment, and I know this to be a fact. And when you have discernment, you can kind of see little glimpses of darkness in people, like in their eyes and stuff. It allows you to essentially see Satan and spirits of Satan that are working within people, because this is how Satan operates in the world that we live in. Satan has access. He can go kind of, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but Satan uses people, man. He does, and he moves in these ways. So, for instance, when I was in my house, when I was in that dark place at the house, I would hear chairs and doorknobs moving, and my first thought is, who is this, right? He almost like makes you think about people. And I had this girl that I was with, and I have a story about this on my channel as well, where, dude, I came over to her house one day. It was just me and her, and she went into the other room and just let out this guttural scream. And at the time, I don't know what it was, right? But the whole time she was just agitated. She was just making issues out of nothing. And I really mean it, man. Like, I was not at all angry. There was really nothing that was worth getting just super, super agitated and angry about. And it was just, I was really confused at the time, because I didn't know what was in front of me, dude. But when you see certain looks, people that know what I'm talking about, man. You see really that this is Satan that is working in this people. The spiritual realm is a very real thing, and anyone that tells you it's not, I pray to God that their eyes be open to it, because it's like the wind, the spiritual realm. You don't ever see the wind, but you can see it working, okay? And I think discernment has something to play into this, but there are times where I would look into this specific person's eyes, and I would see something dark inside of them, okay? That's the best way I can put it. And looking back on it now, obvious, dude. I mean, there were times where I'd be sitting with her, And she would just be sitting there like fuming. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are you even angry right now? And it's not, keep in mind, this is not like a minor argument. This is not like a, a day-to-day disagreement. This is like I don't even know what I've been here for 5 minutes. I don't understand why you're angry right now. And man, like, I don't want to get into the whole thing, dude, but take my word for it. There was a demon in that woman. Okay. There was a demon in that woman. There was something evil inside of that woman, and God took her out of my life. But I think what God did is he showed me, he just, because I don't realize these things. I don't know if it's like this for everyone, but you don't always realize these things in the moment. But once you kind of gain more wisdom from God and you read the Bible more, you pray more, you get closer to God, you start remembering things and looking back on your life and being like, oh, that's what that was. So, and there's a lot of moments like that. I was hanging around people that were trying to get me to do like Adderall and stuff. Someone gave me a pill for free. I was around somebody who tried to convince me that God's not real and like he is his own God. I don't even know what that's called, but and then I bring up the Bible and they start getting angry. So there's definitely some darkness in this world, man. The world is ran by darkness, as a matter of fact, and it's a very real thing. So sorry, it's kind of a ramble sesh, man, but so all of that happened within the past like year or so. And so now, and then I get to a point where I'm like, listen, like I need something else in my life, okay? Because I've been living in these ways for a very long time. I've been doing these drugs at the time. I was doing still kratom. I was still vaping at the time. I was still looking for filling a void in these women and trying to fill a void with spending time with certain people and looking to fill this God-shaped void that I have in the world, okay? And I get to a point, as a lot of other people do in different ways, where you're like, I need something else, okay? Because I've been living my life and I'm trying different things, nothing's working. You start thinking like, man, let me try God. Let me see what this does for me. And you get to a point. Yep, fell out there. All right, apologies for that, but you get to a point where you just say, God, I don't know what to do, okay? I have tried everything under the sun. I have tried these drugs, I've tried these women, I've tried all these vices, nothing's working. I still have this void. What do I do? And this is when God will show himself in your life. When you come to him and you actually try praying. Just say a prayer a couple times, man. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Don't look up how to pray. A relationship with God needs to be honest and pure. Just go to him and be honest. Say, God, listen, I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying these things. I don't know what to do. I need help. I need wisdom. I need guidance. Would you please enter my life? Will you please have your Holy Spirit enter my spirit and my heart and give me some wisdom on what to do? Anything like that, man, because there's not one right or wrong way to pray. Don't let anyone tell you that. And he'll come into your life, man, and it might not be right now. It might not be right at that moment. Don't just pray once and say, oh, hey, where is he? He's not here, okay? Because you have to remember, people try to disprove God with science. God is not, he's not in the boundaries of this world. You can't ask something of the spiritual realm to just reveal itself to you in the physical. It doesn't work like that. Again, remember this, that God is like the wind. You don't see him physically, but you can see works in your life. You will start to see works. If you really open your heart up to him, you'll see him working. I fully gave myself to him, man. Like there were the times where I was at the end basically of seeing this girl that I was with that had a demonic presence in her, and I brought the Bible over to the house one time and like basically asked to read it. It didn't go so well, as you can imagine, but that's the point where I said, okay, I'm gonna start reading the Bible, and I need to give myself to God, because I'm trying to fight these things. I didn't want to be addicted to these things, because I was at the point where I realized these things are not filling the void. I thought they were, but they're not. So I realized I was deceived by the devil. I need God in my life. And that's when I moved to the place that I'm at now. And now I'm finally feeling God. I'm reading the Bible multiple times a day. I'm filling myself with his word constantly. I'm gaining more wisdom as the days go on. And all I want to do is share it. So that's why I've been making these videos lately, is because I'm so confident. It's at the point now where you can't tell me that God's not real. It's like, 2 + 2 is 4. Someone comes along and tries saying, no, dude, it's actually 7. And you're like, I can't even debate this, because it's like, no, it's like you just, when you open your heart to him fully and you really give him a chance, he shows himself to you, man, because we're all created in God's image and God loves every single one of us. So I guess I just wanted to share that, man. I got off that kratom that I was on for 3 years straight, and I only withdrew for like a day. And I was praying to God. I prayed to God multiple times during that, and I think it's just incredible how a 3-year addiction, I mean, you read stories of people trying to get off of Kratom that were on it for a year or two, and they're having withdrawals for like weeks and months. So I was just so blown away. And, you know, I think that was a gift from God. And I just feel like I'm in this place that I am now for a reason. And a lot of people will say stuff like that, but when you have God in your life and you feel that, it's a completely different feeling, man. So, yeah, I've been, you know, I take caffeine every day still. I haven't vaped in about a month. I still use a little bit of nicotine. I have some nicotine gum, so I'm not, you know, again, I'm not perfect, man, but since I've asked God to come into my life, right? He enters your heart, he enters your spirit. When you finally are at a point of having a poor soul, when you finally have an empty soul, right? You get to that point where you're like, man, I don't know what else to do. You ask God, and then he comes into your empty soul, in your empty spirit, in your empty heart, and he fills it up with himself, okay? He fills it up with his light. And what that light does is it shines light on things in your life that you need to fix. So it quite literally, it almost changes the way you think in a very subtle way. You'll kind of just start showing you things, and you'll kind of just start knowing like, okay, this doesn't fit what God would want. This is not how Christ would act. So I shouldn't do this, right? But that's only when you fully can empty your spirit and stop trying to fill that God-shaped void with things in the world. He can't come into a spirit that you're already trying to fill up. He's not going to force himself on you. God's a gentleman. He knocks on the door. He doesn't barge in the way the devil does. He doesn't, you know, smash on the window and say, hey, you know, pizza delivery guy, and then just barge in like the devil does. He will wait until you want to come to him. He wants authentic relationships with us. He's not going to force himself onto us. So if you can realize, okay, I need to stop looking to fill this void in the world, empty your spirit, and then, as the verse stated, you will have a kingdom, you will have a place in heaven, because you've now finally emptied your spirit and you've allowed God to come in, and now he can work in your life. So this video was all over the place, man. I hope I didn't repeat myself too much, but I had this on my heart and I had to say it, because I just see a lot of people that they're so rejecting of God, and I'm never one person to treat somebody differently because of how they act, or, you know, to talk down on people who don't believe what I believe in. But I have found something in my life that is very gracious to me, that has changed my life drastically, and is only going to get better, by the way. I haven't even fully received the fruits of my labor, but I feel them coming. Is the thing. It's like things are starting to really shift in my life in a good way now that I've asked God to come in. So I want to share it with people, man. So again, believe what you want, man, but just try reading the Bible once. Try praying once. Just try it, dude. Like, just give it a shot. You have to at least try it. You cannot knock it until you try it, okay? So thank you guys for watching, man. Peace.